Okay. So to stay consistent with everybody being on the same page, we are going back to chapter 2 and reviewing all of the concepts. You're going to complete this chapter 2 test review just as if it were notes. You're going to submit it to me. I'll give further directions in Google Classroom. That way, you are being held accountable for the notes that you are taking. Compare them with this video, okay? And then you're going to work on your assignments that I post in Google Classroom. So this is chapter 2 test review. I encourage you to pause the video now and complete the first page. Once you are done, play the video, compare it, and keep moving forward. The first section says, use the distributive property or combining like terms to simplify the expression. So these are expressions. We're not solving, we are just simplifying. I'm going to use the distributive property and I will get negative 2x minus 12. That's it. There's nothing more to do. It's just an expression. This is going to be negative 7x plus 21. There's no distributive property happening here, but we can combine like terms. There's a 3x and a negative 1x. That's going to be 2x. And 1 plus 2 is going to be 3. So we're just cleaning it up. Here, a negative 1 and a negative 1 is a negative 2x plus 1. 6x times negative 2 is 6x minus 12 plus 3, which is 6x minus 9. Now we have a 5x and a negative 3, which is going to be a 2x plus 9. So this is just simplifying and combining like terms. The next part is going to be using the distributive property and or combining like terms to simplify both sides of the equation and then proceed to solve. So number 7 is 3 times x, which is 3x, minus 12 equals 48. We must ask ourselves the question, how do you get x by itself? Solving is simply isolating a variable. So we need to remove a negative 12 by adding it to both sides, which will leave us with 3x equals 60. I get x by itself by completing the inverse of multiplication, which is division. X will be 20. The beauty of math is that you can check your work. You could substitute 20 back in. 20 minus 4 is 16. 16 times 3 is 48. It works. You don't have to, but you can always check your work. 2x and 3x creates a 5x. We have to simplify before we solve. Now complete the inverse of multiplication, which is division, and x equals 2. Number 9, we must simplify before we solve. So 4t minus a t is a 3t plus 7. In order to get t by itself, we have to remove 7 and remove 3. So the inverse of addition is subtraction. The inverse of multiplication is division. T is 4. Number 10, we have to simplify before we solve. Make sure you distribute to both terms. We have to simplify before we isolate our variable. 4x minus an 8x is a negative 4x. We can't move anything to either side yet until we've simplified, which we have. Now we can add 8 to both sides, and we'll get a negative 4x equals 16. Divide both sides by negative 4. X equals negative 4. Number 11, both sides are simplified, but now we have an x on both sides. I encourage you to always take the x's and move them to the left. You don't have to, but this way you'll have consistency and it'll be clear what you do every time. All right, 7x plus 5 equals 12. Now that x's are on the left, let's move numbers to the right. x equals 1. Same thing here. Let's move x's to the right. We'll cancel on both sides, and we'll get negative 10 equals negative 10. Is that true? Yes. If it's true, therefore, that's what these 3 dots mean. Therefore, all real numbers. The symbol means all real numbers work. That means x could be 2, x could be 7, x could be 3,000. And if you're not sure if it's all real numbers or no solution, try a number. Substitute it in. Will it work? Number 13, we have a similar situation. We remove 2x from both sides, and we get 7 equals negative 3. This is not true. Therefore, there is no solution. No solution will work. Well, think about it. This one's always going to be 7 more, and that's going to be 3 less. They'll never be equal. Here, like I said, let's get always the letters to the left. So I'm going to write the letter first. We're going to have now 3D plus 5.3 equals 4.7. Okay, now we move the numbers to the right. So we're going to subtract 5.3 from both sides. We get negative 0.6. And we have to divide both sides by 3. Negative 0.2. Okay, like I said, get j's to one side or the variables to one side. So my answer will be 2/8 j equals 8. How do you get rid of a fraction if it's being multiplied? You divide it. But remember, when we are multiplying, when we're dividing a fraction, we're really multiplying by the reciprocal. So this becomes j equals 64 over 2, which is just 32. Next line, we got to simplify before we solve. So it's going to be 2u minus 4 equals negative 4u plus, be careful, a negative times a negative is a positive. We're going to add 4u to both sides because we want the numbers on the variables on the left. Notice I rewrite and I rewrite. I don't do multiple steps at once. I do one step at a time. Now we add 4, and we're going to divide by 6. And that's it. Here, we have to simplify before we solve. So I have to make sure to distribute to both terms. I'm going to move my variable to the left just to stay consistent. Who cares if it's negative? If you have questions about these at any time, you may email me. What I recommend doing is while you're completing these pages, put a circle or a star around numbers that you don't understand. That way, when I say, hey, do you have any questions? You can go back and look at your work and say, oh, I circled that one. I must have had a question about it. Here, we have to simplify before we solve on both sides. If there isn't enough room, always grab a separate sheet of paper and complete on that. All right, so this side's fine. This side we have to simplify. We have an 8b, we have no other b's on this side. We have a 3 and a 72, which will be 75. I'm going to get rid of 8b on both sides. Add 30 to both sides. B is a negative 35. Okay. This side, I want you to try and complete as many as you can. Okay, and then pause the video and check your answers. This is 5 more than 3 times the number is 197. Okay, it's going to be a decimal. You can say 65.6 repeating, or you could leave it as a fraction. The sum of 3 consecutive integers is 24. What are the integers? All right, well, it says sum, and it says 3 integers. So I have one integer plus another integer plus another integer that equals 24. I don't know the first integer, so I'm going to call it x. It's a consecutive integer. So for instance, say this integer was 10, the next one would have to be 11. That's one space away. So we could call the second integer x plus 1. And then the next integer would be 2 spaces away from the original. If the original is x, then it's x plus 2. It wants to know what the integers are. Well, I can figure out the first one by combining like terms. If I combine like terms and I solve, I know the first integer was 7. So then the next integer must be 8, and the next integer must be 9. That's it. 20 is the sum of 38, and twice a number is 124. The sum of 38, twice a number is 124. What's the number? So we have to remove 38 from both sides. And divide by 2. Number 23, the sum of 4 consecutive even integers. The sum of 4 consecutive even integers is negative 20. What are the integers? Well, we said before, we don't know the first one, the next one would be x plus 1. But they're even integers. Let's say the number was 10, then the next number would be 12. So they're not 1 away, they're 2 away. And then the next even number would be 2 more, which would be 4 spaces away, and then 2 more. So that means that I have to combine like terms. Be careful because we're equal to a negative number now. That number is negative 8. So the numbers are negative 8, but be careful. It's not going to be negative 8, negative 10, negative 12. It's going to be negative 8, add 2, negative 6, add 2, negative 2. Okay, add more. So we have negative 2 plus 6, which is 4. So does negative 8, negative 6, negative 2, and 4 give you negative 20? Let's check. Negative 14, negative 15, negative 16. Something's off. Oh yeah, because I didn't put my original back in. I apologize. Negative 8. Negative 8 plus 2 is negative 6. Negative 8 plus 4 is negative 4. Negative 8 plus 6 is negative 2. That's it. 21. 2 less than 6 times a number is the same as 10 more than 2 times a number. What is that number? Subtract 2x from both sides. 4x minus 2 equals 10. Add 2 to both sides. 4x equals 12. X equals 3. That's it. 24. The sum of three odd integers is 81. So 1, 2, 3 equals 81. Well, the thing is odd is just like the same as even. They're two spaces away. So if I don't know the first one, let's say I have an odd number like 11, the next odd number would be 13. That's two spaces away. And then it would be 4. So it's just like the even. Even though it's odd numbers, they're still the same amount of spaces away. So to find the first term, we have to solve for x. X is 25. 25 plus 2 is 27. 25 plus 4 is 29. So these three numbers add up to 81, and they're odd and consecutive. Next one, solve a proportion. 4x equals 24. You have to cross multiply. 4 times x is 4x, 8 times 3 is 24. And then you just solve like normal. Next one, 4 times 6 is 24. 9 times the quantity r minus 3. Make sure you're using parentheses so that you can distribute to both terms, that 9. It's not 9 times r, it's 9 times both of these. When I add 27 to the other side, I'm going to get 51 equals 9r. Well, if you divide both sides by 9, what do you get? 5.6 repeating. You could leave it as 51 divided by 9, but you don't have to. Here, 10 times the quantity x minus 3 is equal to 9x. So 10x minus 30 equals 9x. Subtract 9x on both sides. X minus 30 equals 0. Add 30 to both sides. Next one is prove that this is true or not true using two different methods. So if we cross multiply, does 2 times 12 equals 8 times 3? 24 equals 24, yep. And also 2 divided by 8, when I put that in my calculator, 2 eighths is 0.25, or if you reduce it, 1/4. 3 twelfths, if you reduce it, that's 1/4 as well, which is 0.25. So yes, use two different methods. All right, pause the video and try the next page on your own. It says the following triangles and rectangles are similar. Why is this out of focus? Okay, we're going to solve for x, knowing that, oh, it doesn't say what they're equal to. Well, side 3 goes with side x. And side 8 goes with side x plus 10. The letters weren't copied. So cross multiply. Subtract 3x from both sides. And x equals 6. Well, if x is 6, then the sides are 6, 10, and 16. That's it. For the next one, this is saying that this quantity equals a distance of 10. Well, if you look at a number line, if your distance is 10, that means you could have been the number 10. So this could have been the number 10. Or all of this could be negative 10. Because the distance from 0 to negative 10 is still 10. That's what absolute value means, as a distance. So you're always going to set up two equations. The positive number it could have been, and the negative number it could have been, because it will still be a positive distance. Set up the next one. So this could have equaled a positive 4, or it could have equaled a negative 4, because those two directions give you the same distance. All right, the absolute value of 10, x is negative 10. So it's saying the distance from 0 to this x value is negative 10. Your distance can never be negative, so there's no solution. Here, your distance is 11, but not really, because this negative 3 needs to be moved. So now my distance is going to be 14. If your distance is 14, then you could have been 14 or negative 14. Subtract 1 from both sides. Divide by 2. Subtract 1 from both sides. 7.5. Negative 6.5, I'm sorry. The next one, we got to get rid of this 1 and this 3 before we can say what our distance is. So let's get rid of the 1 first, and then divide by 3. We can never bring anything into the absolute value bars. Okay, so if my distance is 1, I could have been the number negative 1, or I could have been the number 1. Doesn't matter which one you put first. When I add 5 to both sides, I get 4. When I add 5 to both sides, I get 6. So you could have been 4 or 6. Same thing here. I'm going to subtract 5 on both sides. And I'm going to divide by I'm going to divide by 2. So now I'm ready to go and set up my two equations. Here it's saying the distance is negative 1. Can you have a distance of negative 1? No. Therefore, there's no solution. And lastly, on this page, it asks you to solve for y. So there's also x here, so don't be caught up in it. We need to get rid of this 3x, and we need to get rid of this 2. So how do you get rid of a positive 3x? We're just going to rewrite this. And we're going to get rid of the 3x by moving it to the other side with subtraction. So now 2y is by itself, and it equals 10 minus 3x. How do we get y by itself? Divide by 2. Therefore, y equals 10 minus 3x over 2. It doesn't really have to mean anything. It's just, did you isolate your variable? And you did. So we're going to do the same thing again for here. How do we get x by ourselves? You have to remove this m and then remove a b. So add m to both sides. bx equals s plus m. Divide both sides by b. X equals s plus m over b. That's it. All right, there's a lot more still. Take a break. I'm going to make a second video and make a part 2 for this, and I'll share the link as well on Google Classroom.